Welcome to the Patchwork of Belonging, a podcast where we unravel the threads of connection and together we explore what it means to belong in a world frayed by crises and narratives of separation. In each episode together, we journey alongside grassroots activists, climate refugees, artists, farmers, academics, conservationists, and cultural custodians who are reclaiming their heritage and their sovereignty. With them, together we explore what it means to rediscover old and to find new ways to belong and find connection. So join us in this radical act of storytelling, where we amplify marginalised voices and envision a resilient, interconnected future that our hearts know is possible.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the Patchwork of Belonging podcast series. This special one is titled Weaving Connections, and the recording of it took place back in May 2024 within the confines of Marrakech's Qadi Iyad University. Back at the time, along with my colleagues here at Global Diversity Foundation, we were organizing the 18th edition of the ISE Congress. ISE, that is the International Society for Ethnobiology. I will leave you a link in the description in case you are curious to learn more about that. But suffice to say that one of the people that we invited for this congress was contemporary Irish artist William Bock. So William Bock was invited to present his live rope making installation. Now, to say very little about this installation because the rest of the podcast will really delve into it, as well as the conceptual underpinnings behind it. This installation is both participative and performative. Performative in the sense that as a passerby, you can literally just look at Will while he's making rope with the natural fibers that he's gathered around the high Atlas Mountains. Participative in the sense that you can as well take part in this process if you wish. As I was as well trying to record some field recordings of the sound, manipulation of the natural fibers of making this installation, a spontaneous conversation happened between Will and Moroccan local farmer and environmental activist Ali. And I was lucky enough to be there to record that conversation while at the same time providing spontaneous translation to both parties, as the conversation happened for Ali's part in Moroccan Darija while Will was responding in English. So yes, this is yet another episode that we're making that is bilingual, but rest assured we will as well leave you a link in the description to a video which contains subtitles both from English to Arabic and from Darija to English, to cater to your linguistic preferences. So make sure to check out the description as well as the links in it, and to press follow to keep up with our upcoming releases on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast from.
You know, no one needs a rope.
We need it.
Like, we can buy a rope in a shop for a few dirham. You know, it's cheap and mostly not handmade. It'll be machine made. It's just not. It's just not needed anymore. You know, technology's moved on, culture's moved on, farming practices have moved on.
The longest one you can find is good.
Sometimes I think I'm a bit mad. I think it's just,
No, there's one's on.
you know, it's this man with his rope. Lombok. Yeah. My name's William Bock, and I'm based in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, south west coast. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I do work or make work that explores our relationship to the environment and to each other. The rope has been started in a few different locations in Ireland, and often working between a very mixed demographic of people. And coming here, obviously the plants are different, the climate is different, the culture is different. So what's been really lovely is to see actually how many similarities there are, particularly with the kind of indigenous farmers and craftspeople who are here. The rope is, as you know, a sugan rope, which is an Irish word for like a straw rope, very rudimentary, simple rope you'd cover chairs with. You would tie down the hay, and it just, for me, just speaks of a very direct connection to the environment. You would have needed a tool, and you would have looked around and like, what have I got? I'm going to take this. This works well. That's it. For me, it's going back to what I was saying earlier about this social aspect of work, and how, in a way, instead of being a tool, a practical tool for, pulling, tying things, it's actually a pulling and a tying of people to plants, so that it's sort of repurposed as a tool for kind of a social tool for kind of social cohesion. It's a very
كثير واش زعما تقدر بحال هذا الشيء هذا كيطلب لك واحد الوقت طويل باش تصنع واحد العدد باش يكون لك اكتفاء زعما الناس.
I think now maybe what we need more is connection, is this, like, just a space to be together. And I think a lot of people, maybe back in time, or maybe actually not so long ago, you would do more things with your hands together. In Irish we have this word called mehel. C'est de l'Irlande. Mehel. It means like working for a shared purpose, so like a team, and you would help. It's like your neighbors would help each other. So you make a rope together, or you cut your hay together, and then you help them later. So it's cooperative, and it's yeah.
I can translate that into one Amazigh word, which is exactly the same meaning, which is tiwizi.
So mehel is.
كاين عندنا حتى حنايا تيويزي كانت كتستع حتى هي واخا حتى هي ولات قليله دابا، وكانت كتقوم مقام ديال مثلا باش تبقى تعطي نتا الفلوس وكذا باش سميتو ديك تيويزي كتحاول تجمع المسائل ديالك وديال الجار وديال سميتو ديالك غير يعني حتى بالتكلفه، يعني كيكون داكشي بحال بالتناوب، كنجمعوا المحاصيل ديال هذا كنتجمعوا كاملين. داك هو المفهوم ديال التيويزي، وكتجمع المسائل بواحد التكلفه، يعني كتكون بالنسبه لي كتربح واحد بالمقارنه. الا مشيتي كل حاجه تأدي عليها غادي تقام عليك.
وقال لك هو اللي زوين تبع هادشي ديال المهر ولا تيويزي هو انه الناس كانوا شحال هادي وهما كيخدموا راه كيتجمعوا مع بعضياتهم، يعني الناس كتشوف بعضياتها وكتجي وكتدوي وكتخدم بيديك، وهذيك الخدمه براسها راه عباده، فهمتي؟ ماشي كلها فهمتي كيحسوا بالضرع على الفلوس باش يكون خدام. يعني ديك الخدمه كيف ما دابا نتوما كتخدموا مع بعضياتكم كتعرفوا على بعضياتكم وكتعرفوا شنو هي تيويزي عندهم في ايرلندا، وانت تعرف هما راه تيقولوا لها مهر في اللغه ديالهم. وهذا كذلك هذيك الخدمه راه هي باش كيتلاقى بنادم، وداك المومون ديال اللقاء هو اللي كيكون زوين.
هذاك هو الحلاوه ديال الحياه بالنسبه لي.
We've already had this discussion, but it was quite quite dynamic time trying to talk to Ali, and between you and him and other people coming and joining the rope making. So it was, I didn't remember all the things that came out of it, but just remind me the name again. Tiwizi. So Tiwizi and Mehel, it seems, are connected and very much speak to, a currency of exchange, of mutual support. And I've been, I suppose, not trying to recreate that, but trying to think about how to make artworks engage with people with that as a sort of underlying ethos. So the rope project is really has come out of that sort of practical exploration of tools, of materials, and of, I mean, it's collaboration in one. You could call it collaboration, but I think it's really just holding space with people. And I think that so there's a lot of examples of land practices that were about work. They were about labor and quite hard work often, but because they were done together and in community, it would have made them feel, I suppose, less hard, and also would have provided a sort of creative space for people to be in together. This is where songs would come in, where, exchanging stories, gossip, thinking about all those beautiful chords that the Amazigh women would make for the stools, for the chairs out of the doom palm. That's a lot of work and a lot of time spent twisting these chords. I mean, I was in the storehouse, and there was just piles, hundreds and thousands possibly of meters of this stuff, and you're thinking that is just human hands working. There's no machine. So what were those? They weren't just in silence working. They were chatting, surely, gossiping, or just being still together. And for me, that feels like such a rarity in modern society, where we're all kind of siloed into little workstations, and that communality is lacking in modern life, because there's no real space for it to function, unless you're doing a hobby but as a kind of way of being day to day, it feels there's very little of it. And I love that. Maybe it's just how I operate. I much prefer working with my hands and focusing it in, and then again that sense of a conversation emerging from that focus, rather than it being, I'm going to meet someone and talk to them, and we're going to have a face-to-face, which is lovely, but it's just a very different way of operating, and I really appreciate it.
But it's time. Time is the currency, in a way. Instead of money, it's giving your time, and you know that when you give your time, you're going to get time back from other people. So it's just a different type of exchange, a different type of currency.
قال لك شحال هذه كانوا الناس ما كيتعاملوش بالفلوس، كيتعاملوا بالوقت. يعني فهمتي، انا غادي نخلصك بالوقت ديالي وانت غادي تخلصني بالوقت ديالك. ما كانش الفلوس، ولكن دابا الوقت بحال طلعت القيمه ديالته بزاف.
ولكن دابا كاين ثاني حتى واحد مثلا نقدر نقول لك الحلاوه ديال الحياه باش تعيشها مع الناس اخرين حاليا ما بقاش. يعني ربما العمل ديال هذه الطرق القديمه يعني هي اللي كتربط الانسان مع بعضياته، وكيعيش حتى ديك المفهوم ديال السعاده. ما خليني من الماده ماشي معيار ديال، وربما الانقراض ديال هذا الشيء اللي طغط عليه، ربما التكنولوجيا الحاليه طغط على هذه المسائل، حتى الانسان بعد على الانسان. ما بقاتش ديك الاجتماعات، ما بقاتش ديك القصص، ما بقاتش ديك الحلاوه ديال الحياه، ما بقاتش الناس يعني داك التواصل الاجتماعي اللي كيعطي الحياه الحلاوه. تقريبا نقارض مع الانقراض ديال هذه المسائل القديمه.
It's like we're poor in another way. We're rich with money. We have lots of money. now. We have a lot of like fat wallets, but we don't have like time or that space to be together. So we're rich in some ways and we're poor in other ways, in the ways that we maybe weren't before.
تعنينا من شي نواحي يعني بحال كما الماده دابا كاينه بزاف ولكن تفكرنا من شي نواحي اللي هما ولا عندنا واحد الفقر.
This is getting quite chaotic.
واحد الفقر اجتماعي واحد الفقر في التواصل مع بنادم.
I love what you're doing, but I don't know how useful this is because it's so short. It's not you, it's the plant.
دابا الحياة الوسائل سهلت الحياة فعلا سهلتها وكل شيء سهل دابا ولكن كما قلت لك ديك السعادة اللي غادي تعيشها مع اخوك الانسان تقريبا مشات ما بقاتش يعني كاين واحد النفر كل واحد بوحده. شوف غير في مثلا عندك في الدار كتلقى كل واحد شاد شي آلة إلكترونية ومنعزل على حدته وهذوك هاد الوسائل اللي كانت قديمة اللي كتجمع الإنسان هذاك هو الحلاوة والدور ديالها في داك الشيء علاش دابا حتى كما قال لك تفكرنا من الناحية ديال العلاقات الاجتماعية راه صحيح ربما هذا التطور التكنولوجي من بين السلبيات ديالو هو هادشي. إذا راه حبذا نرجعوا شوية الوسائل القديمة في جميع المجالات.
You're gonna become the rope.
What I'm interested in doing here with the rope is creating these spaces, in inverted commas, that allow for kind of informal meeting. So you're kind of doing one thing, you've got to focus because you're like holding a microphone and listening to the sound and then allowing whatever happens to happen. Or you're making a rope, but actually what's happening is that there's a conversation unfolding and a connection being made between people who maybe wouldn't have met otherwise.
How many ropes have you made? I must ask so far.
I mean, not that many. I mean, but they've been, I suppose, 3, nearly. So the first one was in a small town that I live in Ireland, or I live close to. And that was the first, that was really me testing out how this idea might work, making a kind of a social sculpture, a collaborative, organic sculpture that was made by many people and moved through the land. So that was, I suppose, took 2 weeks. It was over a 2-week period. There was an exhibition that it was connected with. But it started on this sort of marshland, kind of like a floodplain of a river that went through the town. And we made it long enough to cross the river. So I dragged it through the river and we brought it up over the bank and into this gallery space. And it grew in the gallery. So it ended up being about, 70 meters, with over 60 people contributing over those 2 weeks. And all the plants were harvested from that bank. And for me, that was very much about drawing attention to a sort of natural space, a wild space in this town, which has, in my view, always kind of turned its back on the river because it's always flooded the town and always caused, but in a way, it's its greatest asset. And the second main rope that I have been working on is on an island. So it's again connected to that place. So a lot of island communities in Ireland would have, used the rivers to get to the, to trade, to shop. They would have gone up this tidal river and moored in the town, obviously tying up their boats with rope. So it felt appropriate to kind of connect to them. There also is an island, only 10-minute ferry ride off the coast of where I live, and there's an island community of about 100 people, long-term, full-time residents, and they put 50 Ukrainian refugees on the island in this hotel, empty hotel. So there's a massive change in the demographic of the island, so I thought it would be really interesting to bring the rope process there. So that's ongoing. It's not quite finished yet. We're still working. We're about 40 meters. It's not really about the length, but it is the length represents the time we've spent together, and it's been very beautiful. And that will, I think, will culminate in making a short film of the process with them. So those are the two, and there's this one, and I've also added to the previous the first rope up in Dublin for an arts festival. We added more to it. So I'm still kind of wondering how, will we connect all the ropes? Is it one long rope? Is it? I love that they represent, they kind of embody a time, a place, a particular landscape, and particular people, but that somehow each rope kind of is connected. Let's see.
It's strange, isn't it? Because we have communication devices all around us. We're like hyper communicated or hyper connected, and yet we're not actually communicating maybe in the way that you're talking about. It's like the quality of the communication isn't so good. We can text, we can phone, but then it's not direct, touch, and I don't know. It's just very different now. Do what you are doing? Yeah. No.
دابا الله اعلم اللي بان لي انا هاد الوسائل القديمه هي اللي كتجمع الانسان. كل ما رجعنا للوراء شي شويه في الاستعمالات، كل ما كيكون التواصل حلو ما بين الانسان. الا رجعنا بقول بعدو شويه من سميتو، رغم ان دابا راه التطور وصل لواحد القمه ما عرفت كيفاش غادي نوصفوها، ولكن الرجوع لهاد الامور هادو كيقوي هاد الروابط اللي كتكون بين الانسان. يعني بالرجوع لهاد التيويزي، هاد الوسائل التقليديه وهاد كذا، كترجع العلاقات وكترجع الحلاوه ديال الحياه مع اخوك الانسان.
The trick is really to go back to old traditions and old practices. That's the only way to find joy in communicating.
Really?
And happiness, going back to communal practices, going back to